Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
What other kind of questions do you have?
I was just listening about your dreaming. You went pretty deeply into dreaming, and a question came up for me, and I saw it later, so I couldn't ask in the chat. So let's say people come to you quite frequently. They come to me and they say, "Oh, you were in my dreams. Oh, I saw you in my dreams." And I'm wondering, like, are we just sharing the local reality, or do we have, like, a connection, or are we just hanging out in the same astral places? Like, what is that about?
When people show up in your dreams, there's two things are happening. It is a self-revelation dream where your own self has recreated the residual image of something that's meant through some form of teaching to yourself, or you're actually sharing that dream space with that person. In the vast majority of the times, it's yourself creating the image of that other person in the shared dream experience. And at other times, you have people that are sharing themselves. You're not sharing this reality. You're sharing an expression of an experiential body that is out of phase with the I am present self, that is going through higher levels of consciousness exploration in the dream world. And somehow the body must have a memory of it. And when we are awake and we're going to sleep, and then we're asleep and we're going to awake, the body goes through a phase where there's a limited amount of infinite dream world download into the DNA memory, so you have full memory of what was going on in your dreams. So many people are disconnected from that process that first 10 minutes of the day, that's their only chance to even remember anything of their dream. And if they can't figure out a way to record it, that energy is essentially lost to the I am presence. But it is still there. Learning to reconnect to it is absolutely vital. The energy is always residually there, and by taking all of our residual energy that has no equation attached to it anymore, we can collate it around our heart, our sacrum, and once again begin to use our own energy to create mystical experiences in the future.
Yeah. So I go and visit people a lot, apparently, or they're just having residual energy about me.
No, you individual, you're a traveler. You're a traveler energy. Okay?
Okay.
I don't want to use the wrong word. There's such a polarity that I don't want to create. All right. There are times that both men and women become very loving. And there are times that they will go visit other beings who have been under attack, and they'll love them, and then they'll get very attached to them in their dream world. And then that spiritual body will become a bit bloated on that love energy, and the other physical part of your body won't have as much love energy as that spiritual body. And you'll become a little stalker-ish of that other love person until they get attacked again, and then there's this big bursting of energy. So you have these over-amorous energies that come for other non-physical entities at times, or physical entities, but you're only experiencing them non-physically, and you are experiencing their traumas and pains and rapidly defending them. So that's that core issue there.
Is there a way to work on healing that?
Aligning yourself to the center of your heart, that's the one expression. The bigger thing is you need to detox your aura each day. You need to figure out a way that you can, and I'm not talking about full detox. This is auric detox for you. Like the imagery that I have right now, I've got the solar flares all going around me and different thing, and Natalie right over there. That is an auric expression. You have things in your aura that like hair needs to be combed out, like burrs in it, or little rasta things that are stuck there that dense energy can attach to. So it's time to think of a way to have spiritual hygiene for your aura. Maybe take out the comb, the special comb that you have, and use it to rub 1 inch above all over your body, just as if you were caressing your own hair with your favorite brush.
Okay. Yeah, I used to have dreadlocks, but I don't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Robin. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, and what a wonderful day to be on with the eclipse energies and all the good things going on. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
You are welcome. You are the great winning of the contestant of being read on the eclipse day.
I know. I'm so excited. Thank you.
You are so welcome. So how did you find out about the show?
I heard you on an interview that you did on the radio with 2 female hosts, and you read some of the contract revocations. And when I heard them being read, I just knew that I had to go repeat them for myself in my own voice, and went right to your website and started following you from there.
Very, very cool. So that you've been around quite some time.
For a while, yes.
So what of the material has jumped out at you, other than the contract revocation?
Yeah, the spiritual parenting was very good. I have a teenage son, which maybe we'll get into a little bit. That was very good. The dragon stuff was very, very, very interesting to me. And just all of the way that you interpret things, when you have that feeling where you just know something's right. And that's how I feel when I listen to your thoughts on things. So it's very much appreciated.
Very cool. Well, you have the Akashic record of this world and 20,000 other worlds open to you. How do you want to go about this?
I have a question I thought would be good to start. There's kind of a 2-part question with some general information maybe for the audience and me. So I'll read it or go through it, and then I can break it down if you want.
Sure.
Basically, it's about rock climbing. I recently tried it and was just completely hooked after one experience, and it almost feels like a primal urge. I think about it all the time. I've made it a priority in my life, and I asked a trusted friend if this primal urge that I'm feeling is a sign that it has to do with my mission on Gaia right now, and she said, follow your passion. It will lead you to yourself, which I love that advice. So the 2 things I wanted to know if you could speak on is, number 1, when you are trying to follow your passion and determine this stuff, but you're balancing it with these 3D, what I call them 3D realities, such as paying bills and taking care of your family and all these other things, I feel, I guess, some sense of guilt or uncomfortableness with how to dedicate my time to these things. And then my second question, more personal, is what is this connection to rock climbing that I'm feeling, and does it have anything to do with the man who introduced it to me?
Cave woman like rocks. Cave woman crime rock. You reminded yourself of a whole different free layer of expression. There was a lifetime that you lived that was in the mountains of like Okinawa, in and around the Japanese islands of Okinawa, and you were a guide, would take people on the mountains, through the jungles, through the valleys. It looks like you were a professional guide in the 1870s to about 1908, 1909, where you were killed by a shark. Yeah, you were killed by a shark in about 1909. It was the most free your life had been. You were a Polynesian person, not native Japanese, but you were considered the best guide and rock climber, and you made it a business and had a manager and everything, and you had made it out of a society that, you know, was out of sticks and stones, and made it to the highest echelons of civilized and cultured society that wanted to go explore the mountains and leave their trash everywhere.
Wow, so it's not necessarily related to my mission on this.
No.
And if not, can you speak to what that is?
No, that's just the first part. Well, you have to realize, you know, what it took for a soul to have that life experience, and then what you did from 1908 afterwards. You know, you were asking, you know, is it my soul mission to be, you know, Grand Masteress rock climber? You're a rock climber? No. It's to do what you love. And if rock climbing is something that you love and the individual that you're doing with it, that means a great amounts of energy are being exchanged between you and the rocks that you're working with, you and the people that you're working with. It means you're turning on the dynamo of internal and eternal and infinite power, where you do not have to dedicate a section of time and a value of energy to have fun in the slave society before you have to go back to the slave society and plug back in. It's saying that that structure, that architecture that says that work is 9 to 5, that bills are this, that kids responsibly are that those do not have to tell you how reality works. You are the reality creator, and you have an unlimited source of energy. And that rock climbing is a modus operandi, a forum, a format in which you can turn on your spiritual, sensual, sexual energies to the highest frequencies and have them radiate in your aura so that people palpably feel your power.
Wow.
There is where your life's goal is, because once people palpably feel your power, what do you do with power? Is rock climbing going to change the world geopolitically? No. But a woman that's climbed every major mountain and has all the power of those behind them, giving a speech to new students coming out about political science, can really change that concept. That's taking power and understanding that when we use it as the proper tool in education, that we can alchemize anything that we need and have that transmutive power instantly available at our consciousness demand.
Okay.
So life and soul goal. Well, you do have a very big soul mission, and this has to do with what you're doing in the dream world. Let me make a bridge here to help you understand. There are times where the I am presence gets full of hot air, full of energy, and then it just goes into something and has a really good time, and the soul is a plotter and a planner, and it really is slow. It's like the grandfather always walking slow as the kids are running around it. And your soul is basically saying, hey, grandfather, you can't walk 25 steps a day. It just doesn't work no more. You need to start walking 100 steps a day, 200 steps a day, 10,000 steps a day. And you're reaching that point where your soul is going from 50 to 100 to 250 steps. And that's more steps means you are going to be moving at a faster pace than everyone else that's around you. That means your own family, your own children, everyone that knows you. Your life is going to be so much faster and so much richer, full of experience. Now, your soul purpose is once you get this energy flowing, going, and are able to maintain the ability to fall back on energized states to rest, recover, and renew your spirit, you're going to have special psychic talents that fit to your dream world. It's an ability to split your dreaming body into 2 pieces without soul sharding yourself. This is a specific DNA light body technology that came from a group called Ogranawan. The Ogranawan, are the best description of them are 3-legged humans. Think of what a dog's leg looks like, and imagine 3 of those so they can kind of like hop around, and they have very short arms, and their hair is prehensile, like fingers. and they have very accurate control over their hair, and their hair is their sensory technology, their communication technology. They have vocal cords, but their hair speaks in a virtual sign language, and they can interact with technology. You have this in you, so you can just split your consciousness into a double dream world. One of those dreaming bodies goes and creates things around the physical you. Dreaming energy can be manifested around us to create the building blocks of manifestation. That is your dream. Think of construction foreman. You've got that built into your light body. Most people have to go through hundreds of years of specialized training to be able to create this like construction worker that will create astral constructions that become dream constructions that become real life manifest constructions. This is for you to figure out, how do I use that? Your sole purpose is to use that skill to be able to create in the dream world, in those lucid states, things, objects that begin to transfer from the dream world to our physical world.
Okay, I've really been working with a lot of your advice on remembering more of my dreams, such as the journal and sleeping with the salt and getting another colonic on Saturday, doing a cleanse all month. I'm just wondering if you could maybe speak to a couple of health issues. One that I think is common to a lot of other sensitive people, like might be listening right now, you know, when they try to tell you have fibromyalgia, but I fixed that without eating gluten, and I keep having to eliminate food from my diet to feel okay, and I'm just wondering if there's anything else I need to be addressing that's blocking some of my dreaming ability.
That's some of the spiritual toxicity that's around you. At about age 15, 16, a serious fog layer of spiritual toxicity came onto you as part of ancestral karma. When you reach that age, in an age of awareness and unawareness, all of a sudden the ancestral lineage debt came to you, and this is from your mother and father, and this is where it hit very hard. What was life like then?
It was pretty bad with my parents. They did not understand me at all.
Right. You know, without getting into the details, why don't you just say a little bit of how bad it was? The level of rebellion was really serious.
I mean, I got straight A's in school, ended up graduating early and going off to college. It was more mental. I remember a lot of times crying alone. I just felt alone. I had a perfect older brother and a little baby sister, and I was like the one that was just kind of there, the scapegoat for everything, I felt like.
All right. When I say rebellion, I mean you weren't happy, and you were not with the family unit's conformity. You weren't identified and singled out like your ex-soul was expecting to be identified and singled out and brought to special teachers before you had became 16. This is the specific goal. This is the specific karmic goal your family missed as part of your birth contract, which makes this a birth trauma, an ancestral karmic birth trauma, meaning you've gone through this before with other members in this particular soul family, but not necessarily the mother and father that you have now. The soul family, in DNA lineage you're in, it is a trapped lineage that's been in the reincarnation grid that generally works as a support structure for the military, the medical industry, and some of the other support systems that go with the medical industry, creations of tools and technology. But that's as the slave system. You know, you've had many, many lifetimes where you're the person hauling the bodies out of the battlefield, or you're the doctor on the battlefield, or you're the shaman that heals the people after the war. That's what you got trapped into. You have lots of patriots in your family lineage, and that's going to be the other layer of your family lineage program that you don't want. You want to be an unlimited being. Are you there?
Yes, taking it all in.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm moving in the right path with the Gaia, with the colonics, and
Yeah, you're moving in the right path, but we have to address the spiritual toxicity that started there. That's where you didn't get acknowledged for the spiritual psychic talents that were built inside you, and you didn't get the acknowledgement of the soul that you're a divinity path being, and that with the divinity path being, you have a whole different set of rules that are for you, that you shouldn't be functioning in the matrix reality like this, because you can become so tied up in the matrix reality as your divinity path being, you could begin separating yourself out in the soul shards. And this is what you began doing by age 16, 17, 18. You had divested into a series of very intense friendships, where you began giving them a soul shard because these people were going through heavy states of psychic depression. And you began feeding them and never ever getting back the volume of energy that you gave them.
yeah, that sounds very correct.
Well, that's what we have to
I
change.
feel like okay.
Okay, so you said you feel something?
Well, I was going to say, I feel like my son is taking my teenage son. In your spiritual parenting video, you talk about how they come and they take your energy, even if they're downstairs and they're mad at you. Mm-hmm. And then also in the spiritual parenting video, when you mentioned if you do things when your kids are younger that you think could damage them psychically, and then you go and you talk to them about it. But what if things happened when he was younger? Like, of course, all parents, I'm sure, that I didn't address back then, and now he's a teenager. How can I make up for those or heal those?
Well, again, it comes down to the understanding that there are times we create a toxicity we don't know about. And children are like sponges. They just come in, just like you came into your mother and father's drama. Your son came into your drama that you don't even realize that you're impressing onto him. So the spiritual toxicity of giving away all of your energy to others before you give to yourself. So your son grew up through that, where you were giving, he always had his needs met, and was not in a situation where he was tremendously ignored. At least that's in the field of what I'm reading him. But he always understood that for him to be number one, that it was a serious competition with you at the psychic level. And he learned skills to basically step into your energy field and basically say, it's me now, you're paying attention to me, and you're giving me energy now before you run out of energy.
Yes.
Right. So when you have bully energy skills like that, we have to clear the frequency that originally created that. You up for a little bit of contract removal stuff? I can do something here and then now where you can just kind of repeat after me, and it's be in the contract revocation style, and it's something that you'll be able to repeat as a process for you.
That would be great. I actually recorded one you did with another listener on health, and did it in my own words, substituting some words. So that was amazing. I would love that.
Sure. All right. So just repeat after me. I am the ever-present co-creative moment.
I, in the ever-present co-creative moment,
choose to enter into the Earth Akashic Record.
Choose to enter into the Earth Akashic Record.
A sovereign declaration.
A sovereign declaration.
A removal of all birth traumas.
A removal of all birth traumas.
Complete and total erasure of all birth karma contracts.
Complete and total erasure of all birth karma contracts.
At the complete architecture level.
At the complete architecture level.
Anything perverted attachments.
Anything perverted attachments.
Creating extending contracts.
Creating extending contracts.
Of non-co-creation.
Of non-co-creation.
Are also deleted.
Are also deleted.
Nothing can be in 1 degree of separation of a contract I have erased.
Nothing can be in 1 degree separation of a contract that I have erased.
With this stated,
I
now address ancestral karma.
I now address ancestral karma.
I no longer use the system of ancestral debt.
I no longer use the system of ancestral debt.
I call upon my highest soul
I call upon my highest soul
in every single layer of soul shard in all of my existences
in every single layer of soul shard in all of my existences
to call forth a moment of internal auditing,
to call forth a moment of internal auditing,
to find the final measurement of how much value I have put into the system and been returned to me.
to find the final value of how much energy I have been put into this system and returned to me.
I see the tremendous disparaging,
I see the tremendous disparity,
a size that I cannot even begin to describe, the value of me versus the value given back.
a size that I can't even begin to describe, the value of me versus the value I've been given back.
A value that disgusts me at its unfairness.
A value that disgusts me at its unfairness.
And I tell you now, system of domination and control,
And I tell you now, system of domination and control,
I audit you on all levels and dimensions and time streams.
I audit you on all dimensions, levels, and time streams,
And issue to you a spiritual warrant notice.
and issue to you a spiritual warrant notice.
We are returning to zero balance.
We are returning to zero balance.
That 0 point in the fetus and mother's womb.
The 0 point of the fetus in the mother's womb.
You have no control over me,
You have no control over me,
no power, and no ability to influence.
no power, and no ability to influence.
You are hereby banished from my existence.
You are hereby banished from my existence.
With this now stated,
With this now stated,
all of my offspring,
all of my offspring,
who were also imprinted ancestral karma,
who were also imprinted with ancestral karma,
have that removed from them as my signature frequency.
have that removed from them as my signature frequency.
My energy cannot be used to confuse or camouflage.
My energy cannot be used to confuse or camouflage
Others in unawareness.
others in unawareness.
I now ask that Earth enter this into the Akashic Record,
I now ask that Earth enter this into the Akashic Record,
so all beings know sovereignty means we must use our free will at all times.
so all beings know that sovereignty means we must use our free will at all times.
There we go. It's a big amount of energy that came off of you during that.
Thank you.
So what's going on with your lower back?
I'm really not sure what's going on with me. I don't know if I have some type of parasite or something that hurts under my ribs sometimes. I have trouble eating a lot.
Well, I see two major bulges in your lumbar vertebrae. One of them looks to be like a spiritual cyst. When your son was born, was he done C-section?
No, he was not.
Did you have any C-section births?
No, he's my only.
All right, because this is a C-section birth trauma here, and it's really specific. Where was your son born at?
He was born in Laguna Beach.
Laguna Beach. Hold on, let me scan. How old is he now?
He is 15. He'll be 16 in December.
I'm separating his record from yours. You know any big changes in your son at about age 12, 13?
Yeah, I thought it was hormones. He started getting different. Yeah.
Did he have any obsessions that kind of made you notice, hey, as a 13-year-old kid, 12, 13, it's a different obsession?
No, he's been obsessed with skateboarding his whole life, and that's never changed.
All right, because he's a walking. He's a straight up walking. And the birth trauma. I think he might have shared bodies until the I don't want to call it original because there's no hierarchical structure into the fetus order of the type of DNA lineage that you have because you can split dream bodies. So I think he came in with two souls and one was contractually meant to leave, but I don't think it actually left. I don't run into this very often. This is actually quite interesting here. It's for a live show, and I have to separate these different balls of information. Tell me about his birth.
His birth was actually pretty easy, besides some initial back labor. I mean, he came out pretty quick, and everything went very smoothly.
What about before the birth?
Before the birth was not so smooth. My ex-husband was, I kind of realized who he was when I was already pregnant, and it was not happy.
All right, well, maybe he came in with a protector, and the protector decided to become I don't want to give it the wrong words, a defender of areas, even though he was a ghost that wasn't going back to the light. And some souls do make that choice to come into the dense realms and just become a martyr for a while. But he had two souls when he came in. If for me to identify it strictly as defense against your husband, no, I think this was something that your son strictly planned to bring somebody in as some type of debt. And since it was an ancestral debt relationship, he was able to bring this in under non-broken rules. I mean, I've seen this before. It's rare when you see it in the DNA lineage that can split into two dreaming bodies. Usually the system's all over that, so I don't see the common markers that the system is beating you up, and you're in ancestral karma, or you're in some other things, but I'm trying to find out if there's 1983, 1985. What do you remember about the year of 1985? Just kind of think of a minute.
1985. I had an abortion back when I was 15 or 16. I don't know if that's what you're picking up on.
There's your birth trauma. That's why I came in. Yeah. And for people out there that are seeing this process of the reading, identify these traumas. And when I see a C-section birth trauma, an abortion, is a little different. That boy was supposed to be born with a C-section trauma. It was already imprinted into her. So there you go. So what kind of other questions did you have? We don't want to just limit it about this. This reading is for your chance to ask as many questions as you want.
Okay, sure. Well, I've been to Egypt twice, and I was blessed enough to have an experience in the sarcophagus in the king's chamber both times. I was wondering if you could speak to the impact of these to my soul, and then also maybe include a little bit of information for everybody listening about the truth of the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the temples along the Nile.
Okay. So what about this sarcophagus do you want to know? Did you actually lay down and sleep inside it?
I laid down, we were with a spiritual tour group, and I got to lay down for probably a couple of minutes by myself while people went around me. I don't know if they were silent or chanting, but it was a personal experience in the complete darkness those times.
What did you experience in there?
I experienced the first time I felt like a white light coming straight into my solar plexus, and I just started laughing. I was just so happy. In fact, when the guy went to take me out and I jumped up, everybody else got up real slow and was real lethargic, and I jumped right up, and she said, "Gosh, you're so happy." And I said, "I'm so excited," but I don't know why I said that.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you a little part is you got led in onto the universal joke. That means your soul, who was a part of hierarchical order, and I will use this as a metaphor. Every now and then we have souls that have the stick up the butt syndrome, where they're really hierarchical order. They really think we all got to get it done, and they don't just let down. And then the universal beings create these joke moments where the I am presence goes and does stuff, and the soul's all serious and guiding them to that moment in space and time, and has done thousands of actions in no time to make sure that I am presence going to be there for that. And the I am presence has the experience that it's just this connecting to universal source, and the soul is not a part of it. Do you get that?
Interesting. Yes, that is very interesting.
Deep teaching moment, because you have the experience, but your soul isn't a part of the joke, and it knows this. It knows that it was played on that, and that it's like I've been tricked by my own little micro self.
I'm a real jokester.
You're a real jokester. Now, what does this mean? It means you connected into the technology at the DNA level without the higher soul going, do it. You're like, aha, I did it. So the next layers, you want more and more and more experiences of that. Well, the pyramids are a place that we can get experiences. The pyramids have many different layers and purposes. They are not one single reality, single purpose structure. We must think of them as multi-purpose, multi-dimensional, multifunctional structures of physical, tangible source as well as intangible energy source that has structure and creation to it. So on one aspect, we can look at a layer of the pyramids as a consciousness creation device where it takes frequency and vibration from the land and takes it into a series of chambers that create a higher frequency step up into the center core of granite that has crystals in it, which creates a harmonic frequency of consciousness. Now, if things live in that frequency, they begin to raise their consciousness. It's like having, a Wi-Fi booster signal, a consciousness booster technology in your particular area. So everything that you do is amplified. All the food that you grow, all the items that you make, the texts and documents that you write are connected into the frequency of the planet. Now imagine tens of thousands of those things spread all over the world. There would be specialized zones of high enlightenment. And then there would be zones where none of this technology was there, and then the enlightened beings and the technology would go there to not experience the technology so they could solely connect into the single frequency of the earth. And this is what set up the hierarchical structure between using technology versus using the natural of the land. And this is one of your soul's biggest things is during your Lemurian expression, you were creating these consciousness objects in town centers, in villages, in squares when there were still millions of local realities, and they just didn't look like pyramids. They looked like whatever you wanted them to look like. So you're coming to a time you're going to be able to create those again, create them in your mind in the architectural structure, and then to be able to build physical objects that create quantum energy solutions. And that's not like a quantum energy machine. It is literally an object that has no moving parts that creates sentient moving energy that we can tap into and begin to use that unified zero-point field as our conscious manifested creation.
Wow, that does sound fun.
And it sounds fun because you have a second dreaming body. That means you already have the construction form inside. So just having the initial objects of focus that raise consciousness in your little local bubble of reality. So creating an altar would be a very good way for you to start to create an object that increases your frequency daily and your connection to the planet daily.
I will do that. That sounds like a great idea.
So
I have a question.
Sure.
I often get the phrase in my head, I'm a time bender, and I don't know what a time bender is, and what, am I telling myself something? What is that about?
You're saying that you bend time. But time's a social agreement. You know, is being fashionably late bending time?
Yeah, actually.
Okay, then, so you're a time bender.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. Can people walk into a room and be fashionably late and still be on time? The answer is yes. Time's a social agreement.
That's so funny. That relates to one of the dreams that I put in when I submitted for a reading. I understand it exactly. I left somewhere and I came back and I was supposed to be late, but I was on time. That's exactly what that was.
I actually remember reading that one.
That was a funny one. I have a practical question about talking to the fire. I hear you tell a lot of people to do that. A couple of questions. When you say tell your life story, is it as you sit down and you start to do it, is there a certain period of time we're supposed to focus on? Do we start from the beginning? And then I'm trying to figure out where I can go, build a fire outside where it's safe, where I can talk out loud and no one's going to hear me as a woman alone. And I wanted to ask if you can do candles or something else.
Candles aren't enough. Now, if you had a room that had 80 candles in it, and I say 80 because that might be enough, and then you can get those little small candles or find candles like this for people that are looking on the video that are, the Kia candles that burn a long time. That's a lot more expensive than getting a fire. For a single woman that doesn't want to have to worry about people projecting on you sitting next to a fire, you can go get one of those little charcoal barbecue things, and instead of putting charcoal in it, you can put twigs in it and little sticks and stuff that'll burn, and you can even put charcoal in it. The point is to have a fire that you're adding stuff to that goes through the consumption process. So that's the key mechanics there, is that you're going to be adding more and more to the fire. And where do you start? There's no fixed place to start. I kind of tell people, come with a little timeline. What is that? Well, how old am I now? Well, what can I remember of the last 2 weeks? What can I remember of the last 2 months? What can I remember of the last 2 years, the last 5 years, the last 8 years? And that's your initial synopsis. That's your cheat notes when you sit next to the fire. Some people, they think they tell their whole story at their first sitting of the fire. No, you're barely scratching at it. This is your chance to count your victories and enjoy them, and to see how different phases of our life where we thought something was a great failure in our life, but we just hadn't finished the learning from it, and it taught us something great about the next layer of life that was coming. And that's the whole purpose of taking this time to tell your story with all truthfulness, and even allowing yourself to do the coloring while you observe yourself telling your victories, your story, your good times, your bad times, so you know what is you and what is not you.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
So, again, there are places that you can go. Do you have a park around you that has like those outdoor cookout things, like next to a pavilion?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California. There's a lot of places I can go.
You can do that. Just go get some wood and stick it on that little grill and put a burger on it or a hot dog or something, and just sit there. And it's your self cookout.
Okay, I will.
So what other kind of questions do you have about the fire, talking to the fire?
Actually, I don't have any more questions about that. That sounds like something that would be helpful for me. It makes sense that I have 2 dreaming bodies, and I was born in Gemini, and I seem to be all over the place. So probably talking to the fire, I'll be surprised at what comes out.
Yes, you should be. you got a really interesting capability here. I've met maybe 10 people in my lifetime that have have that ability of an astral construction system built into their dreaming body. And then I've met maybe another handful of people that have learned that skill. And that is a very, very tough skill to learn. Let me tell you, when I went through my process of learning, it took years and years and years of dream training so I could manifest one little drop of water next to my bed, because that was my teacher's goal, was that if you can manifest a single raindrop right when you wake up, whether it's on your bed or on your forehead, you know that you have crossed the true dream barrier. And I know there are many people out there that have had a single drop of rain follow them out of them in a closed building. Everyone's had that experience.
Wow. That's amazing.
Well, this has been a fabulous read. We're going to move on to the Q&A section here. So thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
And thank you.
Nine 910, your name and where you're calling from?
Hey, Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How you doing?
I'm good. This is Gavin from the chat room, Gav GTO. I just wanted to kind of give you a voice with the name.
How you doing, Gavin?
Pretty good today. I have called in once before.
I remember who you are.
Yeah, when you had your earlier show. I was really nervous at the time because it was my first time calling in. Well, I'm actually kind of nervous now because I get really nervous when I talk on the radio, but I just figured I'd call in and say hello to you and try to get a reading from you and let you know a couple things. I don't know if you remember me telling you about.
I remember exactly who you are, and I've been waiting for you to. I've been waiting for you to claim your power, and this is something.
I'm trying.
Well, you're trying with the wrong set of hands.
Okay.
And really, it's about functioning with your spirit body now. There's so much of your physical body that's invested into this world that you need to invest into the ability to work with your etheric self. When you have lucid dreams, you can function in them. You can move around. You can use your hands and your feet, and you're at the stage of confusion of how to actually do that.
Yeah, I have had the sleep paralysis, and it scares me so bad that I every time I fight it, but I always wake myself up because it's too much for me.
So
but every time it happens, I say the next time it happens, I'm going to try to relax and let it happen. But I always,
you're never going in the moment. You're never going to challenge it unless you are prepared for it ahead of time. And what it is you need to connect to yourself before you go to sleep and speak out loud to the sleep paralysis and to the person that awakes during the sleep paralysis. Because once you fall asleep, unless you put a program forward, you're going to resort to the fight or flight method unless you have something that can override it. So quite literally, you need to talk out loud to yourself before you go to sleep and say, I will not be afraid of sleep paralysis. I am ready to experience the lucid dreaming world. And you need to do it so that it crosses over as you're going to sleep. And by doing it out loud, it goes into your personal energy field. And when it enters your personal energy field, it is a program that once you experience the lucid dreaming, before the total fear takes over, doubt's put into the fear. And when doubt's put into the fear, that allows you to exercise free will and say, I'm ready to experience this. Even if it's for 10 minutes, I'm ready. And then the next night, you can do the same thing. And the next night, you can do the same thing. And this is called charting your course in your dream world. And when you chart the course in your dream world, you'll be prepared to understand that your dream world has a sacred space in it. And that sacred space is what needs words of definition of the awake you, so it can have space defined for you to exist in when you are ready to lucid dream into it. that is literally creating a place for you to go. What I've used frequently is an office setting where there's a secretary and a person in the office and other people waiting, but those are all versions of myself. And it's called the office at the end of the universe. And this may be a technique that you can use. You know, the office could have just one person in it, just you, and you're going to talk to yourself in your dream world. Another thing you can do is create a big lake that has a fire pit and has a little house, and that little environment is where you go to lucid dream, because you have out loud spoken its empowerment, and therefore you can function in it right away.
Do you think I might be trying too hard to do it? When I try to do it, I always, listen to the music at night, to help me astral project and stuff when you fall asleep to it, but I try not to fall asleep.
First thing first is you can't astral project until you've reserved your energy. It actually takes a tremendous amount of energy to astral project and out of body. And every time you try, you're draining your reserves. Put it this way, if you were to not try to astral project for 10 days straight, you would barely have enough energy to actually project out of your body. It's just because right now you're functioning in a third-dimensional matrix with all of your energy field. 85% of you is invested into the matrix. And that means you have 15% of your energy reserves to work with. And to function in the astral world or the dream world, you need at least 75% of all of your available energy. That means only 25% of you can stay plugged into the real world at any time. Me, personally, I unplug 100% before I go to sleep. And at times, 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours before I go to bed, I am 100% unplugged from the matrix and already experiencing the dream world long before I fall asleep. When I fall asleep here, I wake up somewhere else because I've unplugged from this world and I allow myself to have those lucid moments, those traveling moments, and to understand that our being exists in many places at once. And when we astral travel, we are allowing our light body to connect to other versions of ourselves. So for you, it's really about stop trying to astral project and unplug from the matrix. What I'm going to suggest for you is you need to start doing Epsom salt baths, quite literally.
Okay.
You need to neutralize the polarity that's in you, and that is the polarity of the actual environment you're living in. What I'm sensing is there's this wide variety of energies that are just neutralizing a lot of your free will. It's like there's something that cuts down your ability to express yourself regularly.
Yeah.
Well, you need to not allow that person in your sacred space anymore.
Try to, that's the thing. I don't know how to do it as well. I'm trying to, but it's some people are easier, I guess, can do it a lot easier than a lot of people, but it seems like it's tougher for me to do that for some reason.
The only reason it's tough.
I'm working on it.
The only reason it's tougher is because they've been inside that space for so long. So to unplug, you have to tell everybody in your sacred space, get out. And you're just reflecting their energy that they're sending. You're not sending any energy to them. You're using this mirror effect so that they can no longer be in your space. Imagine yourself surrounded by a spherical mirror, and nothing can get beyond the reflection of itself because you are in the center reflecting everything back. And what's inside the sphere is your sacred space, and that's where you create your dream worlds. And only beings that you physically give permission to be in there are allowed in there. If something gets beyond that mirrored effect, you tell it, you are not welcome unless I invite you in. You are now being reflected back to your original sender.
Wow. Do you think there would be anything coincidental about when I was 20 years old meeting a girl who had the same exact birthday, born the same day and same year as me? There happens to be like a lot of good things that happen in my life, like coincidences that I can't explain. It's so weird when I tell these people these things, they don't believe me. And I see these things, and I try to explain like what I know to be true to people, but sometimes they think I'm crazy for saying these things. They're like, man, you were out there, sometimes. But like I'll try to say things about how I lived at that address a long time ago, at 2666 Dolan Court in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And why my parents would even pick an address with that number in it, is beyond me. I'll just go to the next house if I have to move somewhere.
Well, that you got to understand. You got to understand what's going on there is synchronicity. And the reason there's synchronicity in your life is because it's asking you to pay attention to it. And paying attention to it means you don't invest into it. You just observe it from the neutral perspective. When synchronicity marches into your life like that, it's saying, pay attention. There is change on hand. There is lessons to be learned here. There are people to learn about. And it's not about you investing that in them and figuring them out. It's allowing them to be. Because the second you try to create with the synchronicity goes away.
Okay. Yeah, it scared me one day because when you're a kid and you're not even 10 years old and you try to do stupid stuff to see what would happen and you try to talk to spirits and stuff, well, it scared the crap out of me.
It scared you for numerous reasons. I actually remember about what you were talking about.
Yeah, the walls.
The video game and the whole 9 yards. Well, you got to understand, that was the young you. And the adult you has to let go of those things. And just like the other caller, you have to go through your own ritual purification, where you let go of the old concept and say, you can no longer project on me, young kid, that made a dumb mistake. You are being returned to cellular memory. And once again, you have to do that out loud while you're unplugged from the Matrix. Because the Matrix is going to do whatever it can do to pull you back in. Because even when you're unconnected for 1 second, you have the infinite energy available to you, but it's your free will to use it. And that's the crux about free will. You have to use it without doubt, fear, envy, greed, or jealousy as any part of you. Free will only comes to full expression when you are from the sacred neutral perspective, fully expressing it without polarity.
Mm-hmm. I know you got more readings to do. I was going to say one more thing. Now, I know when people pass away in the physical world on Earth, like, for instance, back in 2008 when my father passed away, I was actually there when he passed away with him. I was the only one with him. And I think it's like a gift that we have when some people feel like they can pass away in front of you almost, but even though we have to deal with the thought, I don't have to think about the negativity things back from in the past. But I had a dream one time, and it happened once, but it was like almost as if I was telling my father, it's okay, you can pass on, because it was like, I hear people saying they move up in levels before they pass on, like there's different levels they go through. And I actually had a dream where I spoke to my father, and I said, he didn't know he was dead, and I was like, no, you are dead, I watched you pass away, and it was like I was almost telling him it's okay to pass on to the next life, or wherever he needed to go, and he didn't know that he had already died. And he said, I sure did fool y'all, didn't I? And I remember him saying that. I just don't remember all of my dreams, but I do remember that one. So I think that we do have the ability to speak with people that pass on, off the earth.
Well, you can do that out loud, too. And it's not all from the dream matrix. And I'll let you know right now, you are a medium that can speak to spirits. It's in your DNA lineage.
I hear them. I hear things, but I don't see. I've never seen anything.
You just have to start talking to them. You just have to try and not be afraid. Mm-hmm. When you get off this call and the show is over, go outside where you're alone and no one can observe you. Go out for a walk away from the house and say, hi, I'm Gavin. I'd like to begin this process.
In my mind or out loud?
Out loud. You have to start out loud first because you need to bring the energies to you. All right, I've got 2 more callers waiting, so why don't you call back another time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Andrew.
Everybody, this is Greg, and I'm speaking to you from Iowa City, Iowa, USA, planet Earth.
Welcome, Greg, from Iowa. So, how did you find out about the show?
A few months ago, I came across your 3-part interview on the radio show, Walking in Energy.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about that? What jumped out did it for you?
Reading the soul contract revocations has been a great healing. And also now I'm giving careful attention to my dream time. And I've been actively listening to and learning from the many radio shows that you've done.
Well, thank you. Have you heard me do readings?
Yes, I have, many times.
Okay, so then you kind of know how this works. You have the Akashic record of this world and 20,000 other worlds open to you. Do you have any specific questions you'd like to ask?
I do have several questions. They're all about women's feet. I'm guessing that's why you picked me?
Congratulations. Women's feet questions. We love them.
No. No, actually, some serious questions. I do have several. I'm curious, what do you see for a general overview of my soul's history, families, dimensions, and time streams?
Okay. What other questions do you have on that list?
My other questions, my current soul family and why I joined, my soul's purpose and mission during the current human incarnations and timelines here on Earth, and my free will intent to remove all blockages limiting this current human incarnation from communicating and co-creating with the higher dimensional aspects of my soul being. Those are the four key.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and based off of those questions there. The first thing I'm gonna identify is the soul family you're in is called Yavork, Yavork. They're a hybrid species between Syrian and a bug species that is like a moth. That's the best way I can describe it. So you're like a half human, half moth expression, and it's a very, how do I describe this? I probably only run into about 25, 30 people in my time of reading, 20 years. But I've known about them before because they're some of the most powerful dreaming personalities that I've ever met. The moth has a very special ability to create a special dreaming web around itself, and it can dream itself into a reality. That's the insectoid side. And then the Syrian side has all the genetic engineering that makes your dreaming body very, very different. A couple days ago I did a reading where I described a person that has two dreaming bodies. Well, your scenario is a little different. You have your regular 9 experiential bodies, and you can experience the 7 colors of expression 63 different ways. You also have a dreaming body that can go from one dreaming world to another. It's like putting on a neoprene dive suit and an oxygen tank, and we go underwater to do scuba diving. You have a layer that can go over your dreaming body and allow you to function in any dream environment out there, and to function as if you were the natural I am presence, protected by a thin membrane that could be like a swimsuit. And that swimsuit can be hollow inside, and you can determine how much life force you put inside it. So a spark of yourself that is not necessarily a soul shard and not necessarily disconnected from you can go and have an experience of thousands of years in another dream world, and then you can bring all of that energy back to you in the present. Do you understand that part?
That's a lot to take in. I'm going to have to listen to that several times, many times.
Okay. So
but I think I have a general idea of what you said.
You have a very special capability of dreaming. It means you can go into anyone's dream environment. If you were sitting next to someone and they were sleeping and you were fully active in your skills, you could enter their dreams and begin to do a process of dream disconnection so that they wouldn't be connected to the sacred geometry systems. And once they're disconnected, you can open portals in their dream world that shows them where their natural dream worlds are. Now, you wanted to know about your purpose, and this is your purpose, is to hold space over sleeping people and begin to do dream surgery.
Like a shaman, in a sense.
More like a galactic half bug, half Syrian, half human hybrid that's using all expressions, including science, as it.
Okay.
Okay.
Way beyond the human mindset then. Okay.
Way behind, but we have to work in metaphors with the 3D reality that working, especially when we have light workers that are like you that have gone the next level, that have done some of the personal work and the personal clearing, so that you can ask questions and actually be ready to receive the answer without something being shot back at the messenger. And that's one of the reasons I chose you in this particular scenario, is there's a level of non-static openness to you where you can be open to messages and they can find the actual place that they're supposed to affect you without you guiding them to some place they're not supposed to be, because something in your body has given the hierarchical order too much control.
Okay.
So this is the next part of your soul family purpose, is to teach people the skill sets of how to disconnect from the hierarchical system and connect into a non-hierarchical system of the self. Because it can be a harsh awakening into sovereignty for many, many people. Many people that have awakening issues, they have issues immediately with their dream world. And a skill set based in your DNA lineage and light body lineage like you have would be something that us as a species greatly needs. It would be publicized. There would be, I'd probably say 40 or 50,000 people like you on the world right now that could begin doing specialized dream surgery, where there could be dream clinics where people can come and go through deep energy treatments so they actually go to sleep fully. In just you holding space in that sleeping facility, you're able to connect all of the dream worlds through central portals that are connected to pulsating crystalline technology that creates static electricity. And then that static electricity is literally put into food and then is brought to them in the morning, and that actually begins to retune their body to actually connect to the resonant dream field of Earth, or to the resonant dream field of their body, or the resonant dream energy of their dreaming body. Because there are times that a human being will produce a dreaming body, it'll leave, and all of a sudden it'll start producing another dreaming body, but it can't go anywhere, and it makes this false signature. And that's one of the reasons why people just have horrible, horrible times remembering their dreams. So what other kind of questions did you have?
Well, for many years, I've felt this intense desire or drive to connect with the higher dimensional aspects of my being, and there's something blocking. There's some blockages. I'm not sure what it is. I'm curious what you see. 'Cause to me, here in the human incarnation, this feels like one of the key missions in this incarnation is to do that.
Connect to your higher self?
Yes, and just...
Well, the thing is, you
be able to communicate, co-create.
You've already connected to your higher self, and that you have a perception of a blockage, and that perception has actually been given to you by your mother. Hold on, I'm scanning this. There's something that your mother impressed into you about being connected to her disconnected or connected to her higher self. She did it a particular way that you just misunderstood. What do you remember about your mother? Let's go at like an early age, like age 8 or age 9.
Well, I understand there's been some karma with my mother, and I've done some healing. There was an attachment, a sacral area, and
did she keep you
imprinted at a very young age, and have really worked strongly the last. It's been about 10 years now, working through that, making sure to clear it and watch for any thoughts that arise from that thought pattern.
Did you remember sleeping in her bed, or your parents' beds until you were 6 or 7? What do you remember about that? About how old was it when you started sleeping in your own bed the whole time?
I think there were occasions when I did, but generally I had my own crib from a very young age.
I would ask your mother about that.
I can remember there'd be times when I'd have bad dreams, or if I was sick, then I might go and sleep with the parents. But
right, and I would honestly begin talking to your mother about, when was it that I stopped, really sleeping in the bed permanently, where it just didn't happen after that. And I think that's important for you to discover and ask, because there was scenarios in which both your mother and father were extremely haunted. What did your father do for a job?
He was a math professor and researcher. And yeah, I can definitely believe they were both haunted. It was quite an interesting childhood. Lots of contrast.
Yeah. It was a challenge. And, being a person that has a 0-point function to be a dream surgeon, so when you would go to sleep to them, you were de-haunting them, depossessing them so that they could be free. And you started getting hammered at a really, really, really young age, and your mother, her higher self, impressed upon you a way for you to stop fighting for her, and you really misunderstood it as a disconnection from the source. And so there's a young kid in you who's trying to listen to the mother's rules of reality and disconnect from the source, and an evolved adult person's trying to reconnect to the source. And it's like trying to start a car and the engine's flooded. It's like na 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 na.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so we got to clear out the carburetors here. So contract revocation is one particular layer for you. I think the next layer for you is it's really, really important that you begin to write your own contract revocations that deal with basically the places that you've slept in your lifetime. And I know this is going to sound a little odd, but really think about it. How many places did I live? Did I sleep over a friend's house a lot when I was young? When I was in college, where did I generally sleep? And really, really try to rack your brain about just about everything. I went on vacation when I was 15. I may not remember the place, but I have its frequency. And include all of those names in your contract revocation. Beds of girlfriends that you used to sleep in. It's really, really important that you, who's about to go through a really, really big DNA crystallization awakening process, has that disconnection from the old beds and a reconnection to where you are sleeping now.
Excellent. I will definitely do that.
Okay. So you're in Iowa. Are you right in the big city?
I'm in Iowa City. It's about 100,000 people.
Okay, so if you have a place that you can go and be out in the middle of nowhere if you needed to.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that it's important that at least twice a month that you get as far away from human possibility and actually try to take a power nap. That you try to attempt it twice a month. You just drive for, until there's nothing. Find some place to pull over and just try to take a nap there, away from people, away from the city.
Okay, will do. Is that partly to get away from just the local sacred geometry of this area and all the people? And
well, it's actually more that it gets you away from where you're sleeping, and that when you go to let down to actually sleep, you put up a bunch of sentinels. And in your particular home, there's a bunch of sentinels that are already integrated to the sacred geometry system. You want to be away from those sentinels, the ones that you've already set up. You know, for you, having a cabin in the woods would be one of the best things that you could possibly find in your life. I mean, you're still going to live in the city. You're integrated into the city. That doesn't mean you can't live out there, but a lot of the work that you're going to be doing is going to be integrated into the city, particularly creating sacred spaces that people can let down on. I'm talking like spiritual architecture, where, you know, buildings are built by design to aid people in sleeping who have very tough time sleeping, like building specialized apartment buildings that are true zero magnetic functions. There's nothing going on, no waveforms going through the Faraday cages that are built into the concrete walls. You know, you're going to discover zero EMF. You're going to discover that moving water inside those buildings heals people and allows them to sleep one again. You know, I see you as the dreaming shaman, and it teaches people once again that having a sacred space built properly, with the mind of the 3D and 4D person that you are now, creating a true space people can let down, and then you invite healers to be in that space so that they can let down at the deepest levels, so you can hold space for them while they're actually getting their first infant dreaming in the real world again. It's a great purpose, you know, to be entrusted. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of souls who have contracts with you to be their healer, to be their dream healer. Whether you're physically in front of them or not, it will happen. Whether you're an awakened being or not, it will happen. You as an I Am Presence have a choice now. How do I co-create with it and still use my free will?
Well, I'm definitely open to that. Yeah.
So what other kind of questions do you have?
Those were the main questions. I do have a couple recent dreams that I'm curious about.
Sure, shoot.
The first one, a week ago. Okay. It was a week ago, early Wednesday morning, October 22nd, during all the craziness with the timelines. In Dreamtime, I experienced being part of a group that it seems like we transformed from human into another race of beings. I'm curious, what do you see when you look at that dream?
That is your moth expression, who put on that suit that I told you and went into another reality. And that's the signal to you that your dreaming body is awakening at a whole new different level now, that by December the 21st, you are going to have a whole new way of seeing the world if you can keep your energy environment somewhat clean. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, that you find time to self-heal and self-nurture, and then once again be able to enter the cyclical dreaming slumber of hibernation, where you can have 2 days off, where you sleep 12 hours one day and 12 hours the next day, and are ready for work or whatever it is that comes for you because you've had tremendous dream recharging. Your dream world is waiting to give you infinite amounts of energies just by sleeping, just by becoming a part of more of your DNA activation, by allowing the world of the infinite unseen world to speak to you, to be a part of your collection to your higher self. And one of the things that I see in you is you having a tough way of creating that dissertations with your higher self. You know, you hear me say talking to the fire. That's the first, you know, very simple way of learning how to create dissertations and creating a dialogue with yourself. There's an inner dialogue and an outer dialogue. And sometimes the inner dialogue is you asking questions, and the outer dialogue is the frequency of whatever it is you're communicating coming back to you, or vice versa. And it is now your time as a sovereign free will being to create that system, whether it's using muscle testing or inner or outer dialogue, so you can create the way to communicate to your higher self so that the basic questions get answered until the point you can do your dissertations, quite literally thousands and thousands of words, millions of pictorial images coming through your mind that not only give you an entire synopsis of the subject, but all the backstories that are associated with it in one psychic wave. Have you ever gone scuba diving?
I've dreamed of doing. I have. When I was 19, I got certified scuba dive, but I haven't gone anywhere fun. Just here locally.
Well, it might be a good idea for you to go find a pool and, even if it's just part of your recertification or whatever, to be underwater with that, so you can begin to remind your aware self, this is what it's like when you're dreaming. And for anyone else that's out there that's never been in a dive suit and been underwater with a tank, it would be very, very beneficial for you to go and have that experience of learning how to breathe through a regulator, 12 feet under the water, with all the pressure on your skin. When you suddenly awaken your dream world and you begin lucid dreaming, it feels almost exactly like that at times, or it feels like absolutely nothing is on you. And that is something else that people that are in scuba diving go through after a while of working. They don't feel the water. They simply feel the current, the change in temperature. The water is not in any resistance to them, and it is only their physical endurance of moving their muscles that is their limitations when they're under that water. And you can find a buoyancy point with your belts and the weights and the oxygen tanks that you can float in mid-place and be completely free and close your eyes, and your mind will just expand and expand and expand. I've done some very special classes with some people that were professional divers to teach them how to deeply go into meditation and deep focus while they're underwater without heavy breathing. And many, many, many people have had advanced experiences on them. And then those people move into sensory deprivation chambers.
Is that something you recommend for me as well?
Well, it isn't for everyone, but it is one of those steps that you may want to consider as an experience. The other experience is to look at it more shamanistic. Instead of having the mechanical triggered spiritual response in a deprivation chamber in the aloneness of yourself, versus having an ayahuasca experience with a group of people and a shaman, or a San Pedro experience, or a mushroom experience at your own home, with the express purpose of having spiritual resolution, connecting to your higher self, that uses contract revocations for 3 or 4 weeks before you take the sacred medicine or choose to do the sensory deprivation chamber. I mean, you're not going to be on those drugs when you're in a sensory deprivation chamber. That's just dumb. But you would use those to clear your mind, to clear your frequency, to connect with the higher self, and then go into a chamber. Or if you're having an ayahuasca experience, it's fasting before you get there, and then you're going to have the experience in the ayahuasca or San Pedro or mushroom experience, and it's a matter of yourself having it. And then having that experience, you get the second layer of getting to dream with that. You get to put on that sweatsuit, like I was telling you about, while you're having your plant experience, so you can have a dual function experience simultaneously. Having that in your DNA it's extremely beneficial, because there are people in mystery schools that tried millions of years of lifetimes to be able to manifest that skill through alchemy, to alchemize it such a way that it becomes part of their light body programming. It comes built into your light body program from the previous species that you lived in.
All right, I appreciate that advice. I'll definitely give that consideration.
Have you ever used mushrooms or anything like that?
Well, I've always had a strong internal guidance or sense that I should avoid the use of drugs, at least recreationally. I'm definitely open to it for shamanistic purposes.
Where did you learn that system to avoid them recreationally? Think about who entrusted into you.
Well, perhaps it was the forces of domination and control.
No, it is, but really, really think. In this state of frequency, where did I really begin enforcing that I wouldn't break the law with those things? Who brought it into you? Your mother?
It certainly could be, yes.
Okay. Your high school teachers? Begin to really ask yourself, do they know better than my higher self? 20 years ago, when this belief system was being impressed upon me, did they know the spiritual being that I would be 20 years in the future? No. I'm not telling you to go out tomorrow and buy mushrooms and have a trip. I'm saying to put that in your potential and begin to look at the limitations of belief systems you have that stop you from connecting to your higher self. I'll be blunt. If you probably had taken mushrooms in a spiritual experience 5 years ago, you'd be an extremely different person now. You'd probably be on the internet charging $200 an hour to read people in their dream worlds and to reconnect them in their dream worlds, whether you were doing it through hands-on healing or we're doing it in a class scenario. Easy. One experience would have opened a doorway to you that you've been clamoring for since the beginning of this reading, which is, I want clear connection to my higher self without questions that it is truly me. Plant medicine is the medium to do that and has been the medium to do that for shamans since the dawn of time. And it's time for you to begin to seriously consider your belief system and say, what at this level of my current belief system am I ready to bring into my body to have experiences that are sacred and not recreational? Okay, if you were a cancer patient and dying, would you use marijuana to give yourself a little extra benefit?
Absolutely, I'd use any treatment that would heal me.
Well, you're in the same scenario in your awakening process. Don't limit yourself to the finite reasons. Give yourself the infinite options and allow your true higher self wisdom to come through as you're beginning to do the research of what it is that I may want to try to experience.
Okay, I appreciate that advice. I'll definitely give it serious consideration.
All right, so I've got a couple other questions with you. What's going on with you medically?
Well, I feel pretty healthy. I've been drinking a lot of coffee the last few weeks, and a few days ago I went off it. I've been kind of groggy. What do you see?
I'm seeing a big imbalance in your lymph nodes, a big imbalance in your governing vessel, another major imbalance in your stomach meridian. It's almost like something hit you with a scramble bomb. Hold on, let me scan. Ooh, here we go. 21st, 22nd, 23rd, moment of reflection, reflection countered into second reflection countered into 33 reflections. All right, so I see this every now and then. It's a type of psychic weapon that's used on cities that are going through their own general awakening process. If you have one person in the city that reaches a super high frequency, the lowest frequency in the city is naturally raised. And then there are times where tens of thousands of people go through these super high frequency moments, and that means tens of thousands of people at the lower frequencies are raised up. And they'll use these psychic bombs in an area to stop this process, to literally shut off people's awakening things. And I'm finding a moment on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd where you got hit by a cluster of these bombs, which is throwing off so many of your meridians. Hold on, let me just clear some of this up. There's a tremendous amount of cold, pathogenic cold on the entire left side of your body, like there's a massive disconnection to the female species. This is something that was specific in this bomb, a disconnection from the feminine. There we go. There's been a small hole in the front of your sacrum. I'm putting a bandage, a psychic bandage over it right now. This looks like sometimes our future selves, what they do is they put a harness on us. And we charge and charge and charge and reach the end of the harness line, and we can't go any further. And sometimes we get really crafty and we figure out how to go an inch further, and our higher self sets up a little spike that we poke into, and all of a sudden we go back. And you've been running into this future self spike over and over and over again, and it's been hitting you right in the sacrum.
And the purpose of that from the higher self is to, what, keep me from...
90% of the times when I see this, that means something that you learned from your higher self was misunderstood, and that the pathway that you're going at that fullness of speed is going to lead you into deep misunderstanding, and the higher self is basically going, you shall not pass. I have sovereign free will, and if you make this mistake with the potential and the prediction of what the higher self has, meaning that the higher self will lose its purpose of sovereign free will, and more than likely it would lead you into a massive karmic retribution point where you would be giving away soul shards of yourself to the system. A lot of times it's that wrong woman or that wrong guy that shows up at the perfect time, and we become rebellious.
Okay, that makes sense.
Where we give up we shuck off our responsibilities to families and friends because our time with that other person is so intense.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
You've given me a lot to think about.
Okay. Well, we've got a couple more minutes left in the reading. If you have any just questions on the material that you've heard in other shows, or if you want to ask a question that can help everyone.
Well, I'm curious, how many incarnations have there been for my soul on this timeline?
Well, that's a loaded question. You've been alive in this timeline for 54 million years, and you've been alive in timeline paradox 1. You decided to live about 30 million years before you gave up because you knew there was a second paradox coming in, so you weren't around the end times. Paradox timeline 2, you were a lifer. As soon as the lights went on, you were the first one in. As soon as the lights went on, you were the last one out. Timeline paradox 3, you did not have a lot of confidence in the way the worlds were working, so you soul sharded yourself out to the Anunnaki in an attempt to literally take over a faction of the Anunnaki and have a rebellious Earth faction incarnate into the Anunnaki people, and then you were going to make a separate faction of Anunnaki who were going to destroy the Anunnaki and free Earth again. But that didn't work. So right around 1 million years ago is where you made it in Timeline Paradox 3. Timeline Paradox 4 is a little different from you. It's all about recollecting your soul shards that you invested into the other Anunnakis. But you got pulled into the psychic periscope telescope debacle, where you ended up spreading your soul shards to the very ends of the universe. And then there were other soul family members who came and tracked you down and brought you back here for the 5th time. And you've been here for the 5th time for 54 million years, and you basically got a little note on your soul that says, do not kick out of Galactic Ascension Machine, I must finish.
So I'm here until the end.
Yeah, you're here until the end. A lot of us are here until the end. Because we're so innovative or negative experiences of everyone else just by being alive and breathing. You don't actually have to do anything that changes the world. Just by a breath, you are altering the karma of other beings and helping the world resolve.
you for that. Very interesting.
Well, we are going to end the reading there. Well, it's different for everyone.
60 seconds.
And there are particular dream stones that one can go and get. And you can actually just type in Dreamstone, or you can just go to the traditional turquoise. That is probably going to be the best thing for really regaining dream life. But turquoise is a little more difficult to use. You've got to have big enough pieces of turquoise, and you're going to need to wear one of those things that you put over your eyes to sleep, like a lavender scented thing. And a lot of times they have little pockets on the inside that make it nice and puffy over your eyes, and that's where you're going to put the turquoise in. So the turquoise has got to be big enough so it's bigger than your eye where your lids are, so it can actually function so that it reconnects your eye stream information to your third eye. So you could have two pieces of turquoise over your eyes and a piece of clear quartz over your third eye, and that's a way to realign your physical eyes to your third eye, so when you are going to sleep, you actually get the full lucid dreaming experience not from the perception that your physical eyes are creating and then your dreaming mind's trying to interpret through the eye's perception of sleep. Black tourmaline in the corners, yes, but that's more to absorb dense energies. That's more to stop the energy entities from actually having the ability to manifest in your space.
Each different bubble of reality is true. A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.